Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bible Study. I'm R.K. Brown, and I'm glad to be with you tonight. I don't know if my computer is going to run right or not because it just has been running hot these days, and plus the internet being overloaded like it is, but we will do what we can, all right? The audio should be good either way. Got great audio. So, you saw the title, A House Divided. It's funny, my pastor this morning when he preached, he actually talked about Abe Lincoln for a second. And as I was kind of pulling my Bible study together, I stumbled onto a little wiki about Abe Lincoln and a speech that he made. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of this speech here. He was talking about slavery. Old Honest Abe said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become all one thing or all the other. Either the opponents of slavery will arrest the further spread of it and place it where the public mind shall rest in the belief that it is in the course of ultimate extinction, or its advocates will push it forward till it shall become lawful in all the states, old as well as new, north as well as south." I don't want to get into the subject of slavery tonight, but Abe was saying that he didn't believe that the house would remain divided. He believed that the nation would pull itself together. And to some extent, it has. Now, I'm going to show you what Jesus says, and then I'm going to comment on that even in the light of what Abe Lincoln said, all right? Jesus, in Matthew chapter 12, I believe it is, cast out a demon out of somebody, and the Pharisees accused him of casting out devils in the name of Beelzebub, the prince of the devils, which incidentally the Babylonian Talmud says that Jesus did do miracles by way of black magic. So when they say that, they blaspheme the Holy Ghost. But I'm not going to get into that tonight. I'm not going to be talking about the blasphemy of the Holy Ghost, even though that is the context in which this verse that I'm going to read you is spoken. Jesus said in Matthew 12:25, "And Jesus knew their thoughts and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation." You hear that? Every kingdom. Now, to you Calvinists, does every mean all? Does all mean every? You tell me. Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. So he broke it down. He really broke it down. He said kingdom, city, house, or nation, city, and house. But and a lot of cities back in those days, and even after that, even all the way up into the 14 and 1500s, a lot of cities were what they call city states, where they were autonomous. You know, like certain cities in Italy were like their own entity. They weren't ruled by Italy. They were ruled by themselves. But every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. Every kingdom. So when Abe Lincoln said what he said about slavery in particular, he was right in that the nation basically came together to abolish slavery. But for the next 100 years, the black people of America did not have the same civil rights as we do. Up until within my lifetime, I'm 57 years old. I was born in December of 1962. Within my lifetime, black people used to have to, in the southern states, drink out of a separate water fountain than the white people. And they had to use separate bathrooms in public facilities. and they used to have to go in a different door into a restaurant and probably even eat in a different part of the restaurant than the white people. And they used to have to sit on the back of the bus, on the city bus, and that's how that whole Rosa Parks thing got stirred up. So even though maybe slavery was abolished, the nation was still divided. Jesus didn't say how long it would take for a nation to be dissolved. But unless we come together as a nation, then the words of Christ are going to come to pass towards us. We're divided about the most important things, the rights of our citizens, our black citizens. Now, obviously, black people have a right to do all the things that we do. Now, yes, there is racism in America, certainly on from every ethnic group, there is racism. There's a group called La Raza that's in America that's Mexican that La Raza means the race. And so they're racist against white people and maybe even black people. I don't know about that, but certainly racist against white people. There are black people that are racist against white people and certainly white people that are racist against black people. It always has existed. It always will exist. There's no way that we're going to get it out of everybody. That's just a thing. But we are divided about many things in this nation. Jesus didn't say how long it would take a nation to fall, but America surely will fall unless we turn to the Lord, because the Lord is not going to allow us to stand. We have story after story in the Bible where God, took down, he either caused Israel to go into bondage to their enemies for a time, or eventually he drove northern Israel out of their land completely and replaced them with other people from other nations. Drove them out completely, and they never returned. And also, he drove Judah out in about 587 BC into Babylonian captivity for 70 years. And then when they came back into the land, they were there for a few hundred years, maybe about 400 years or something like that, 450 years, something like that. And then drove them out, maybe 500 years, drove them out in 70 AD, and then again in 135 AD, the Romans finished the job and made it illegal for a Jew to even be in Jerusalem. So we have plenty of Bible examples to show that if we do not follow after the Lord, that eventually, it may take him some time, just like it did with Israel, but eventually he is going to drive us out. We have abortion going on in this nation. Just hand over fist. During the height of the pandemic in New York City, I was wondering what was going on with the abortion clinics, and so I did a little research on it. And a particular article that I read about it, this woman was talking about how the abortion clinics were operating in New York during the pandemic, and she was saying usually if we book 20 appointments in a day, that maybe 13 women would show up to have an abortion. But since the pandemic is on, if we book 20 patients a day, 18 or 19 women are showing up because they're worried about the future. So instead of these women fearing the Lord and thinking, oh my goodness, the Lord is beginning to bring judgment on this nation, they are actually turning in the other direction and killing more babies, murdering more babies, because abortion is murder. If it has human DNA and it's growing, it's alive, it's a human being, even if it's not fully developed. If a person is born without a leg or an eye or an arm, it's not fully developed. You dig what I'm saying? Or how about if it's born with only one lung? Or how about if it's born with only one kidney? It's not fully developed in the sense of being a full-bodied human being with all its parts. So if it's growing and it has human DNA, it's human, it's alive, it's a soul, and if you kill it, it's murder. Then we have what they call gay marriage, which of course that's impossible because, marriage is between one man and one woman. So gay marriage is not possible. Even if the United States government makes it legal, it's not legal with God. God doesn't recognize it. So therefore, we as a nation are divided. My cousin told me that he was in LA the other day, or he was there for about a week, and he met somebody who worked, I believe, for Google. And this person was a transgender, very effeminate transgender person who identified himself as a deer. And I guess he had little horns or whatever, that he wore, and identified himself as a deer. And this person was a Google censor. And he even went so far as to say, if it's somebody, that talks about religion that, causes guilt, brings on guilt or accusation, then we take them down. So this mentally deranged person who identifies himself as a deer is a Google censor that would censor what I'm saying right now if he could hear it. If it were on some Google platform, which it is. It will be. YouTube. I'm going out live over Facebook right now, but it will be on YouTube after I upload it tonight. And whatever day this is, I don't even know what the day it is right now, so I won't even get into it. It's early May 2019. Heck, it's late May 2019. It's almost June. What am I talking about? Anyway, man, the time goes so fast. Good night. It's like maybe May 30th or something like that. 2019, 2020. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. Like May 30th, 2020. Yeah, tomorrow's June 1st. Yes. Okay, I'm finally back in the present now. Okay, I'm back. Anyway, so sometimes when I get like really something in my head, I lose the ability to think outside that place that I'm at in my head. I get hyper-focused on something. So we are a kingdom or a nation divided, big time. And it doesn't appear that we're going to come together on these things. And if we don't come together, then we're going to fall. We conservative-minded, Christian-minded people who used to dominate this nation have relaxed and let the strong man bind us and take our house from us. Jesus said this in the same chapter. Drop down a few verses, down to verse 20 of Matthew 12. Jesus said, "Or else how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house?" We've let our house be spoiled. We've let Hollywood come in and convince you that homosexuality is just a different way of life, that all this wickedness that people do, that people love in their flesh, that we've let Hollywood convince us that it's okay. And it's not okay. And God ain't going to tolerate it forever. Now, I want to show you that same, well, not exactly the same verse. When you have synoptic gospels, which you have in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the reason we have 3 synoptic gospels is because God wanted to make sure that we were able to get all the information. Because one writer may have left out a little bit and the other writer covered it, and vice versa. Or vice versa, since we have 3 synoptic gospels. So look how Luke addresses this verse that I just read. Jesus said in Luke 11:21, "When a strong man armed keepeth his palace, his goods are in peace. But when a stronger than he shall come upon him and overcome him, he taketh from him all his armor wherein he trusted, and divideth his spoils." When a strong man armed keeps his house, keeps his palace, because a man's house is his castle, or his palace, if you will, then nobody comes in on him unless a stronger person comes in. And if we become weak as conservative-minded people, then our house is going to be spoiled, and it already is becoming very spoiled. They already are taking away our rights. They're taking away our freedom of speech. Even though YouTube and Facebook are acting as, and Instagram and Twitter and all these social media outlets are acting as public utilities, they are still taking down our free speech. I wouldn't be surprised if this message gets taken down. They're still taking away our free speech, even though they themselves are acting as a public utility. And that's not right. And the president supposedly is going to do something about it. We will see. But I hope he does. He'll be doing us a solid if he does. Now, some might say, well, he's taking that away so they can watch and see what we're doing. Well, that may be so. I don't mind if they're watching what I'm doing. I don't care who knows what I say. Jesus said, what you hear in the ear, proclaim from the rooftops. I don't care if the powers that be, if the deep state or whoever else may be, the Illuminati, if you want to call it that, I don't care who hears what I say. I am going to proclaim God's word from the rooftops, from the housetops. Let them do to me what they will. I've got stuff in my house that I like, that I enjoy, instruments and things like that, but I'm not so attached to it that I'm not willing to go to prison or even die for the cause of Christ. I am willing to do both if it's required of me. And in the end, it will be required of some of us to be beheaded. Jesus said, some of you will be put in prison for 10 days. Love not your lives even unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. So don't deny Jesus Christ, and he'll give us a crown of life. I'm willing to be imprisoned or to lay down my life for the cause of Christ. I am not kidding, and if you don't believe me, try me. I'm willing to lose work for what I say. I'm willing to pay whatever I have to. I'm not a great soul winner. I don't go out door to door soul winning because I'm visually impaired. I don't feel real good about just walking around in neighborhoods being legally blind. And most of the people in our church congregation are really not, most of them are older. They're really not up to doing what I'm able to do even at 57 years old, because I'm a really healthy 57-year-old guy. And by the way, did you notice my haircut? I finally got rid of my COVID-19 hair. Just putting that out there. I am willing to pay whatever price my Lord requires of me to pay, prison or death, whatever it takes, even the confiscation of my goods, if that's what's required of me. I'm willing to pay it. If you don't believe me, try me, deep state. I am with Christ. Jesus talked about an armed man. So I'm going to get just sort of like not so spiritual for a second, and then I'm going to go back to spiritual. Jesus talked about an armed man guarding his palace. What was it that he said? When a strong man armed keepeth his palace, his goods are in peace. We were given the right to bear arms by the Second Amendment, which I believe, of course, according to what Jesus just said there, I believe we're given the right to bear arms by the Lord. And I'm going to show you more scripture on that in a second from Jesus. As long as we're armed, then our government is going to have a great, terrible, difficult time fighting against us. Think about this. The Soviet Union could not take that little nation of Afghanistan with their world-class, first world superpower at the time military. They couldn't take Afghanistan because we armed the people, and the people fought against the Soviet Union, and they drove them out. They drove them out. With us in Vietnam, they call it the Russians Vietnam, but it was not the same, because I believe we lost Vietnam on purpose. We could have easily won in Vietnam, but we lost it on purpose because of setting stupid rules of engagement. But the Russians don't play like that. They didn't set stupid rules of engagement. They fought a war and they lost to the people. And as long as the people are armed, we have a fighting chance. Now, I have said this recently, that the left keeps antagonizing the people on the right. They know, the rednecks keep saying, well, we got all the guns and we know how to use them. But yet that doesn't stop the people on the left from antagonizing us. So I keep thinking maybe they've got something up their sleeve that we don't know about. Do not underestimate your enemy. But here's what Jesus said about that. In case you think that I'm saying that Jesus is advocating for having weapons. Jesus said to his disciples before he was crucified in Luke 22:35, and he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and scrip is like a promissory note. It's like our dollar bills today. I take that back. Our dollar bills are not promissory notes. They're legal tender because they're not gold backed. A promissory note would be something like it's guaranteed with something to back it. So scrip would be like a promissory note. So forget I said that about our money. That's not it. And shoes, lack ye anything? Okay, let me just read it again. And he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lacked ye anything? And they said, nothing. Then said he unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say unto you, that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And then he quotes from Isaiah 53, and he was reckoned among the transgressors. Then he's back speaking for himself. For the things concerning me have an end. And they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. And he said unto them, it is enough. Now, of course, pacifists like to say, well, he's talking about the sword of the Spirit, which I am going to get into in a minute. I'm going to get into, the full armor of God in a minute. But they said, Lord, here are 2 swords. So first of all, he said, he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy a sword. And then they said, Lord, here's 2 swords. And he said, it's enough. He didn't say, I ain't talking about literal swords. I'm talking about the sword of the Spirit. He didn't say that at all. He told them to take a sword, because sometimes you have to defend yourself. As it says in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for peace and a time for war. There is a time for war. Sometimes you have to wield a sword. And of course, in Romans 13, it says that, the government wields a sword to do away with the evildoer, right? There is a time to wield a sword, and there is a time for war. But I am going to talk spiritually. This goes only to the Christians. Ephesians 6:13, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand, stand. Stand therefore, having done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. In other words, be walking, carrying the gospel, preaching the gospel. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Above all, the shield of faith. Faith is what protects us. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. That's why I come on here every week, so I can help arm you with the Word of God, so I can help you to get verses in your head. And as it said in, I can't remember if it's Ezra or Nehemiah, they had a bunch of people teaching the people the Word of God, teaching them the law, and a bunch of the priests gave the people the sense of the Word. That's what I'm trying to do for you. People are at different places in their understanding of the Word, and I'm trying to help you to get a good sense of what the Word of God is talking about, to help you understand, to arm you with the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, so you can take on the full armor of God, so you can take on that part of it. That's why I'm here. Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. Pray for one another. Let's pray for each other, especially the people you know. I mean, yeah, obviously pray for all the churches around the world, all the congregations. A church is a congregation, by the way. The Bible really doesn't talk much about a universal or Catholic church. The Bible talks about churches, like in the book of Revelation. Jesus, come hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches, right? So, anyway, we as Christians are not called to go and take up literal arms to make people convert to Christ. And we're not called to take up literal arms to defend ourselves when people persecute us because we are Christians. I need to make that absolutely clear. Jesus never called us to fight for himself. In fact, in John chapter 19, I believe it is, Pontius Pilate said, "Don't you know that I have the power to deliver you?" And Jesus said, you would have no power over me at all except it were given to you from above. Therefore they that delivered me unto you are guilty of the greater sin. I can't remember what he said after that. I kind of lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me after the message is over. Anyway, we're not called to, he said, if my kingdom, thank you, if my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight. We're not ever called to fight for the kingdom of God. But I will tell you this, our forefathers in the 1700s fought a war to deliver us from an oppressive regime, being the government of King George. And our United States government is trying to oppress us. They're trying to take away our free speech, and the left isn't even fighting for free speech anymore. They used to be the real advocates for free speech, where we on the right used to be advocates for gun rights and things like that. The left used to be advocates for free speech, and now they're not even that anymore. Now they're just becoming more and more communized. It's just the craziest thing, and it's happening very quickly. We're not called to take up arms for Jesus. But I'm telling you this, I have children, I have step-grandchildren from my wife who passed away 5 years ago, and I have a blood grandchild of my own. I got 7 grandchildren. And I'm telling you right now, I am willing to take up arms to make sure that they can live free. Now, of course, being able to worship freely is included in that. But I'm willing to take up arms for my loved ones, for my children and my grandchildren to be free. Live free or die, I say. If we don't come together as a nation, we are going to collapse. And I don't believe that we're going to come together. I believe that this house, this kingdom is too divided. This nation is too divided. But let not the city of God, let not New Jerusalem be divided. Let us Christians read the Word, believe doctrine, not be ecumenical with people who don't believe Bible doctrine. Just look up the word doctrine in the Bible in the New Testament and see how many times it's used, and just see how it's used. Let us not be divided as Christians. And let us not be divided as Americans, although I'm afraid that we are, and I'm afraid that we are to the point of no return. I don't believe that God is going to forgive the innocent blood that we've shed, because we've killed probably 65 million babies since Roe versus Wade was legalized in 73, 72, whenever that was. So, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that is the way I see it. I believe that America as we know it, unless we turn this thing around, will cease to exist. I mean, it'll be here, there will be people here, but it won't be what we know if we don't turn it around. I'm not trying to, put patriotism above Christianity. I have hopefully clearly made a distinction between the two. I'm a Christian first, and then an American. But I am a Christian first. I will stand with Jesus Christ when Jesus Christ stands against America. I will stand with America when America stands with Jesus Christ. I think that's all I got. If you're watching by Facebook and or YouTube, then do as the kids say and smash the like button. And, of course, go to my YouTube page, which is Bible Study with R.K. Brown. I have 215 subscribers. Go and be the 216th. Subscribe. If my computer was running slow, sorry about that. I just don't understand what's happening with all this now. It used to do so well. And it's a Mac. I mean, it's a good computer. I don't understand. Anyway, Lord willing, I'll see you next week on Bible Study. I'm R.K. Brown. Y'all pray for me. I'll pray for y'all. Good night. God bless you.